Well, good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Urbana Community Development Commission, our regular meeting night of the month. But prior to that, we will have a public hearing. And the purpose of the public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the public to provide input and comments regarding the proposed City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium Annual Action Plan for fiscal year 2014-2015. Notice of this public hearing was placed on the city's website on December 19, 2013. It was faxed, mailed, and emailed to the media, various social service agencies, and citizens, and published on both Friday, December 20th, 2013, and Monday, December 23rd, 2013, in Champaign-Urbana local newspaper, the News Gazette. I now declare this public hearing open. If anyone desires to express their views regarding the proposed annual action plan for fiscal year 2014-15, please come forward and be recognized. I see that we do not have any comments regarding the annual action plan from those in attendance outside of our commission. So seeing that there are no comments, I now declare the public hearing closed. Okay, now we will proceed to our regular commission meeting. I now call the Urbana Community Development Commission to order. Next, we'll have roll call.
Fred Cobb.
Here.
Janice Bankston.
Here.
Chris Diana. George Francis. Jerry Moreland.
Here.
Lisa Beth Searing.
Here.
Ann Hines Silvis.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is approval of the minutes from February 25th, 2014, which again was another of our regular meetings. So we'll take a moment and review those minutes, after which I'll entertain a motion for approval or modification. So we'll take a couple of minutes for that.
Fred,
Yes.
a small correction on your staff report after the city received from HUD.
Yeah.
A confirmation letter.
Yeah, so ladder.
Okay.
Yes, that's
In the sheet, Charles.
right on the beginning, first page.
Oh.
Yeah, it says confirmation ladder. It should be letter.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other comments, corrections? Well, are the commissioners satisfied that this is inaccurate? These minutes are accurate? If so, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I so move with the correction Janice mentioned in the first page.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the minutes as written with the correction that was pointed out. Is there a second?
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written with the correction. And are there any further comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the minutes stand approved as corrected. Okay, next we have petitions and communications. This is directed to those people in the audience, but we don't have an audience, so we'll proceed to the staff report. So,
Okay, you have a copy of the report. Basically, I just wanted to point out that we had received a couple of emails from HUD announcing that they anticipated the announcement of our funding allocations by mid-March. And as of this memo, we did receive an announcement by email and through HUD's website about funding allocations, showing an increase. And now, also, after some delays, HUD's in a position to implement new low and moderate income summary data. And this is what we use to do our census tract map with low and moderate income information throughout the city. And so it looks like that we will be able to update that map based on this new information, which hopefully will come sometime this summer. It says it won't be effective before July 1st. So, the map may look different based on the information. So, and then you can see all the activities that the staff did and the meetings that we attended. So,
okay, thank you. I was wondering, do you receive information for the census tracts that indicate the employment level in the census tracts?
I think that you can, well, I don't think they necessarily send that, but we can certainly go to census.gov and look up all that information. I don't know, I haven't looked at it lately to see how far, if they have like the block information per the census tracts, but
Okay.
they should have all that information on census.gov.
Okay. And I see here that in your report, you're taking bids for property maintenance, lawn care, and so on.
Yeah, Randy's in charge of that.
Yeah. How long does that last? What is that time frame?
I'm not sure when the deadline is.
I believe it already passed. We had a bid opening, I think it was this past week. But if you wanted information on that, I'm sure Randy could provide it on who the low bidder was. Because I can't recall off the top of my head. I was unfamiliar with the company.
Okay.
So.
It's over now.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the, you're taking applications for the whole house rehab program? Are you doing that? It says the last one of those.
That hasn't opened up yet. I think when we do our newsletter ticket, there will be like an ad letting people know. I don't know if anything else has been sent out about applications. So that should be coming
Okay.
open sometime here soon.
All right. Okay. Any questions from commission on staff report? Go ahead.
Kelly, you mentioned that you were going to get new data and those maps in the areas, the target areas. As the target areas might change?
It's possible. It depends on what information that we get.
How often do those change? I don't remember them ever changing before.
I mean, I think the map is based on the census, which is done every 10 years. So I'm not sure what the one looked like before the one we're using right now, which is based, I think, on 2000. So I'm not sure what the 1990 one looked like.
They're not changing the boundaries of the tracks.
No, I think
they
it's
changed
just
the track
what
will
would
be
be
eligible or
considered,
not
yeah, what
eligible.
would be considered low and moderate income, if it even changes. And like I said, we haven't received anything about that yet.
Okay. We'll move on to old business. Under old business, a main item here is a resolution approving the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium, which is Champaign-Urbana and Champaign County, annual action plan for fiscal year 2014-15. Would someone like to make comments on that?
I can start, then if there's any questions, then Jen and Janelle can answer. So the issue is basically for the CDC to review the action plan for 14-15 and to make a final recommendation to the council. Like I said, at the time of this memo, had not yet announced its formula allocations, so the projected funding amounts in the annual action plan were assumed to be the same level for both CDBG and home as this fiscal year 13-14. Since then, HUD has announced the funding allocations by their website and by email, which shows an increase for each CDBG and home. Based on the contingency language in the annual action plan, the budget can be adjusted without the need for additional citizen participation, and the budgets will be proportionally increased from the estimated funding levels that we originally had to match the actual allocation. Last fiscal year, when HUD announced the funding allocation, at some point they then changed it. So we want to make sure that the funding amounts will remain the same as they initially indicated. So we will definitely make sure to change the budgets before submission of the annual action plan to HUD.
Okay. If there are changes, will we be...
We can certainly let you know, yeah, if there's any.
we'll be able to see them?
Yes.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. I was wondering also, was there input, any significant input from earlier public hearings or concerned individuals about the plan?
the ones I attended, no, but Jen and Janelle could probably talk about the ones that they attended, if there was any.
Okay.
I think the minutes are in here.
Did anyone want to change anything?
The minutes for the public hearings are in the back of the annual action plan, starting with the citizen participation and public input, Appendix 4. So there's minutes. We seem to receive input from social service agencies when we had the social service public hearing.
Let's see. Well, would any commissioners like to make any input about any concerns that they may have on the plan, or received any notification or communication from people in your areas about the plan?
I'm noticing in the Thursday, January 9th meeting that one of the attendants asked for technology as part of the grant funding. What's that?
Which paragraph are you referring to?
Let's see, it's the third paragraph from the bottom.
On page 1?
These are those unnumbered pages that are the minutes from the public hearings. It was held Thursday, January 9th.
Yeah, got all these.
Yeah.
Oh, it's before that. Keep going. I think it's this one,
This
right
one,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, right there.
I think that she was
Oh,
meeting
technology,
consolidated with
yeah.
social
Yeah.
service funding.
The green wall.
I wonder what she meant by that.
I believe what Ms. Greenwald was referring to is more so things that are in our social service grants, which really for case management, direct service to clients. And some of the technology aspects would be equipment, purchases, maybe upgrading security, or maybe along those lines of the administration portion of a program. However, the social services grants are more focused on direct service to clients, and specifically with residents that are in Urbana. So the technology piece may be a general benefit to the agency to help general operations, but not necessarily a direct benefit to
Okay.
residents.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what she's asking for. Okay.
Is that going to be addressed?
Probably not
It's going to be
allowed.
thought about?
We do consider all the input that we get from our social service agencies and citizens, and then we take that into account with the things that are considered eligible, especially with the federal money that we mix with the pool of money, put certain regulations on the types of activities and projects that we can fund.
Okay. Any other questions about public input, public hearing input? If not, let's see. We've gone through this before, and what our options are.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I did not a public input question, but and reading the minutes from last meeting that I missed were really informative and helpful. So even with not being here, I thought the minutes were great. And so my only question coming into today was how the information about the map changes impact any of this, or they're within that contingency plan language.
The map would.
The census changes. So like if they,
Census tracks.
yeah, if the designation of the census tracts or blocks changes, how does that impact anything in the action plan, if at all?
Not this year, since the information will not be available until after July 1st. So probably it will be incorporated in the next consolidated plan, which will be starting this summer, next fall, for the next 5-year, and the action plan that follows with that.
Okay.
So,
So HUD isn't anticipating that they'll put this out and within 2 months people will
No,
be
no,
doing things?
the email definitely said it would be not before July 1st
Okay.
of
Well-
this summer, so.
Well, and I saw that. I guess I wasn't clear on how that affected spending any of the funds, but that makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay, we have 3 options here for action. We can forward the ordinance approving the plan. We can forward the ordinance with suggested changes to City Council, or we can recommend that we do not. We could recommend that the plan not be approved. Going to the fiscal impact. It states that there are considerable fiscal impacts associated with the preparation of the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium Annual Action Plan for 2014-15. I was wondering what that sentence means, Kelly. There are considerable fiscal impacts. Can you clarify that? What does that mean?
Basically, I think it would be like staff time, in preparing the annual action plan. That would be like the impact regarding the annual action plan. That'd be about the only impact would be staff time in preparing the action plan.
Okay. Usually there's a reference to the city budget impact on the city budget, but not in this instance. Would it affect the city budget?
No, it
No,
wouldn't
okay.
affect the city budget.
Okay. All right. What's the pleasure of the commission? We have those three choices. You can approve with changes, or not approve. I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve.
Okay, there is a motion to approve this annual action plan and send it to City Council with a recommendation of approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the annual action plan 2000. This says 13-14, but it's 14-15.
My mistake. Thank you.
Okay. And forward it to the Urbana City Council with our recommendation for approval. Any further comments?
I just, Fred, I'm going back to your question about the fiscal impacts, and I think the fiscal impacts are whether there is, it looks like it's whether there's HUD money, both for CDBG and the home program. Those are, we get those or we don't. I think that's what that sentence means, right? That's the fiscal impact. Right, it's the benefit of having these funds in these programs.
Definitely, there would be, if we didn't have the CDBG or home, it would be an impact. Great
Yeah, I
impact
think
on the
that's what that
city.
sentence means.
Well, who wrote it? Okay. We have a motion for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Ayes have it, and the motion is approved. Okay. Next on our agenda is new business. Under new business, we have a resolution evidencing the intention of the City of Urbana, Champaign County, Illinois, to transfer volume cap in connection with private activity bond issues, single-family mortgage revenue bonds, and related matters, in parentheses, private bond cap allocation dash EIEDA Series 2014. Do you want to do these together? It seems like
Yes.
they were interconnected there. And also, there's the transfer volume cap in connection with the private bond cap allocation dash assist MCC program. Okay, would someone like to clarify?
I'll start, and then Jen can hop in if there's something that in addition to what I say. So basically the issue is to make a recommendation to council regarding the use of the city's 2014 private activity bond cap, which has to be decided before May 1st. There are different options for reserving the cap for specific projects, for home buyer assistance, such as through the Assist MCC program, or for neighborhood initiatives through the Eastern Illinois Economic Development Authority. And any unused bond cap not seeded for any combination would automatically be ceded back to the state to be used by another municipality. For this 2014, Illinois Home Rule units are allocated $100 per capita, which is an increase of $5 from last year's allocation of $95 per capita. And so the allocation for this year is $4,158,100 based on the population of 41,581, which is an increase from 2013 population. And on page 2 of the memo, under the background, there's a list of possible activities that this could be utilized for. Since 2012, the city has allocated all its bond cap to the EIEDA to be used toward multifamily housing, as either homebuyer assistance programs were either discontinued or did not have an immediate need for the bond cap. And we received an email from David Roche, who is the director of the Assist MCC program for Stern Brothers, requesting that the city consider ceding all or part of the bond cap, since the program is now up and running. This memo has a copy of the email that he sent, along with a sample press release explaining the Assist and MCC. And then I also talked with Andrew Hamilton, who's the director of EIEDA, and he indicated that there are several projects in the community that the bond cap could also be used towards. So staff is recommending that Community Development Commission forward the resolutions with the recommendation for the bond cap, which is splitting it in half, 50%, or $2,079,000 ceded to the Assist MCC program for homebuyer assistance, and the other half ceded to EIEDA for possible neighborhood initiatives.
Thank you. Let's see, I noticed in here income limits, 72,100, for people to participate, $72,100 for one or two persons, 82,915 for three or more. I was wondering if there is any asset limit that constrains people, that might constrain a person or people. For example, if they only had income of, very modest or below these limits, but yet they had assets in excess of $1 million, would that affect it?
Honestly, I don't know. These are the only qualifications that we've ever received, and since we don't operate the program in-house, I really couldn't say. I do know that families who qualify for these programs often are much lower income than what's required here.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times other programs that they're applying for will have an asset limit like you're talking about, Fred. So,
Okay,
but with this particular program, it doesn't look like there is one. But I'm not running the program. So I know that mortgage credit certificate program used to be run through IDA, and they have pretty strict standards. So I guess it probably depends on the lender and who's processing everything.
Okay. Also, I noticed you got input from David Rash, Managing Director of the Assist MCC program for Stern Brothers and Company. What kind of a company is Stern Brothers and Company? How do they function in here?
I'm trying to remember how they would qualify themselves, but they're basically an investment company. So they manage the bonds and the issuing of the bonds. So they'll connect with the bank or
Okay,
the
they're financiers.
well, they find the financiers.
Oh. Okay.
So they really they're the glue that holds this whole thing together. Unless we give them the bond cap, they can't create the program. So they actually have to go and find a bank who's willing to back this program and finance the loans and everything with all your individual home buyers. And they help facilitate that because there's all sorts of rules on the taxing of everything. So they're kind of overseeing the whole thing.
Okay. Okay, so you're saying in here you want to do it 50-50 Eastern Illinois Economic Development Authority and 50% MCC is the way you want to divide this up, the bond
Yes.
cap. Commissioners have any questions? Have you identified any projects to use this on?
When I talked with Mr. Hamilton, they said there was a couple of projects in the community. There's one in Champaign and there is one in Urbana that this could possibly be used for.
Okay, and if we don't use this, then it goes back to the state. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. Anyone else have questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. We have three choices again. Or do we? Well, our options, we have to decide on something by May 1st. The recommendation is a 50-50. Well, what is the pleasure of the commission? Would someone like to make a motion? The recommendation of the staff is that, as stated, we do 50% to MCC and 50% to EIEDA, Eastern Illinois Economic Development Authority. Would you like to make a motion, Ann?
Sure. I move that we follow staff recommendations and forward that resolution to the city council with a recommendation that we go half and half to the entities as listed.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Okay, any further comments or questions?
I had a question. What do we know of any of the initiatives that the EIEDA, or what they're thinking of?
In the past, recently they did one that was in Champaign. The two that they had mentioned when I talked with Mr. Hamilton was one in Champaign. I think it's Providence, I think, that Housing Authority is doing. I think that was one that they said this could be eligible for. And then the other one is Clark Lindsay Village is doing a redevelopment there as well, and that was another one that was also eligible. And then, of course, there's an RFP out for Urbana Townhomes and Aspen Court, and I see that as this is a possible with that redevelopment as well.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, no. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay, next we have CDBG Public Service Funding Priorities as part of the Consolidated Social Service Funding Pool. Okay, clarification?
Each year, we do our Consolidated Social Service Funding Pool. Those are funds that we combine with the city general funds, the Cunningham Township funds, as well as a small portion of our Community Development Block Grant. Each year, we do ask that our CDC provide guidance to the priorities that we would set for the funds that we use with the Community Development Block Grant. Last year, those priorities were seniors and youth, homelessness, the special needs populations. So we are asking, again, that we recommend those populations, those three choices, because they provide for a larger range of funding options and possibilities. There are many priorities that can be chosen. Those are listed on page 2, such as affordable housing, lead-based paint, infrastructure, public housing. Those other ones are able to be tackled through other means, other funding sources, and with some of our other partners. Mm-hmm. So we like to focus on those because this is a good way that we can utilize those funds and reach mm-hmm. those areas with the funds that are available.
Okay. Question on infrastructure. What other resources do we have for addressing infrastructure?
We do use some of our CDBG funds for infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Currently, we are proposing a couple of projects such as the neighborhood sidewalks, or we recently did the street lights in the Census Tract 53. Those are some of the ways that we contribute to infrastructure with our Community Development Block Grant.
And sort of interconnect with the city on those?
Yes, we do work with the Public Works Department, and a portion, it's written out usually through our capital improvement plan of large projects that the city wants to take on as a whole. And so we look at what we can partner with them on using our Community Development Block Grant funds when a project is in the target area and it meets the goals and objectives of the federal guidelines. Mm-hmm. We try to use some of our money in conjunction with the funds that have already been set aside by the city to address those projects.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed on some of the infrastructure, streetlights and so on, it was stated that we'd have to wait like 2 years down the road or something to get a couple of lights up. I was wondering if we made this a priority, if it could get done sooner. Those things like you talked about a street. Forgot what the name of the street was, but if we made it a priority, could it get done quicker?
The priorities would only apply to the amount of CDBG funding, and which is approximately going to be $5,000. That would be a small contribution to what we would need for a project in that area. So we have set aside other money mentioned in our action plan to work on those types of projects.
Now, I was thinking also of that sewer situation where homeowners were complaining because the sewers were on one side of the street, or not sewers, but the water lines. Is there any resource to address that, or where does that stand now? Is that even on the community development radar or grants management radar?
I think through Public Works, I think they came up with a plan to help address water or the sewer issues. I think you're talking about Dr. Ellis subdivision. I
Yeah.
think that Public Works has a plan that they came up to assist.
Okay.
We talked about that at one of our meetings, and there's a program that they designed to do some cost sharing or subsidize some of that activity, so they're working on that, well aware of it and working on it.
Okay.
I thought of that a meeting or two ago, and we talked about it.
Okay. So therefore, as you said, most of these other items are being addressed otherwise, so it would make sense to keep our priorities the same, except if some of the emphasis has been changed on where these should rank. Are you suggesting to rank them the same, or not?
That would be our recommendation, that they also be in the order, with youth and seniors being
Okay.
the highest priority, homelessness being 2, special needs populations being 3. Certainly, if it is the commission's desire to evaluate the priority in which those priorities are set.
Well, we would need to know the need for, youth and seniors, for example. Has the need lessened, or is it about the same, or do you know? And homelessness, we would, if we knew the need, what the need was, that would help us in prioritizing.
And
Right.
that's actually part of what we do for our consolidated planning process, and that's a 5-year process, or we do it once every 5 years. So actually, this coming fall, we're going to start that again. But we don't revisit those issues as detailed as we do for those 5-year kind of checkups. But yeah, we do all sorts of focus groups to get, what the public's opinion is on, what those needs are. And then that's when we really hone in on the data that's available through the American Community Survey and through HUD to figure out, okay, because we actually have to apply numbers to these populations. So we have to look at the data more closely. So we do have the data available. We haven't looked at the changes so much over the course of the consolidated plan, but we'll be looking at it again this fall rather rigorously. So that would be probably a good thing to look at once we have put out the new consolidated plan, when we revisit this in the coming year.
All right.
I have a question about how the $5,000 was spent in the last fiscal year. I didn't see that in the background statement on this.
So the agencies were the Regional Planning Commission for their Senior Services Program.
Okay.
Their total award, I believe, was $4,200. Of that, $1,000, I think, was Community Development Block Grant funds. The Community Elements has a runaway youth shelter, which addresses homelessness and youth. I believe their total amount was $5,800. for that grant, and we provided $3,000 of the Community Development Block Grant funds. And then through special needs, we tackled with the Greater Community AIDS Project, and they got the remaining portion, about $1,000.
Okay.
So their grant was larger than that. What we do is we mixed, they received portion from the township in addition to a portion from the Community Development Block Grant. So we spread it out with the other money to make up their total award.
Okay. My other question is that of all the different options from the 2010-2014 consolidated plan, they're the ones that are addressed through the other sources, and then the ones that are the focus. And then there's services and training for low and moderate income persons. Kind of isn't mentioned in either category. So I was just curious kind of where that fell.
Right, that's why I asked about the unemployment in the census tracts.
I think the best way that that is addressed, when you look at the entire pool of consolidated social service, there is a component, I think, for youth training. We did a summer youth employment target this past summer with our consolidated social service funding and looking for job opportunities for our high school students and young college, probably up to about 21, 24. That is one way. There are job training programs that have applied for consolidated social service funding. We funded a construction education training program in addition to another youth development, I can't think of the program name offhand, but it was targeted towards youth development training and education for job skills. So through the larger pool of social services, some of those that's how we are able to address that.
So it's sort of an element in a lot of the different ones, and why it didn't come up specifically,
Yes.
rename. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Would one of our commissioners like to make a motion?
I move that we recommend the funding priorities as written.
Is there a second? Okay, there's a motion and a second to recommend that our priorities stay the same as written, which is the same as the word prior. Any further comment? Question? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay. Well, that's the last item on our agenda. Is there anything else that staff would like to tell us, or anything else the commissioners would like to bring up? If not, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.